Now, the intermediate forms of source program is what are the various forms we can store this particular source program. That means from the high level language to towards low level language, right? We'll see that particular thing in this particular class. Okay, we are having the three different forms: the abstract syntax trees, polished notations, and three address codes we are using in preparation of the intermediate code generation. So the intermediate code generation is a link between the two parsing levels. Okay, right. So intermediate forms of the source program. First of all, we identify why we require this intermediate forms of the source program, and what is the meaning of the intermediate form of the source program. An intermediate source program is an internal form of the internal form of the program created by the compiler. What is the meaning of the intermediate source form? It is the intermediate source form is a form of the program created by the compiler while translating the program from a high level language to assembly level language or machine level language. So the compiler is converting the given high level program, maybe recognized by the tokens, okay, converting into a compact form which is easy to convertible to the various different types of machines, okay, or machine independent form, finally into the machine level code or assembly level code. There are a number of advantages why we are using the intermediate form. Why can't we convert directly the given high level language program into the machine level program? Okay. So in the languages like Java, we are calling it as the bytecodes also. Okay, right. An intermediate source form, okay, an intermediate source form represents a more attractive form of the target code than assembly or machine code. The first thing is it is having more attractive form of the target code than assembly or machine code. For example, the every machine code are nothing but are the code related to the each and every machine. It contains a microprocessor. The microprocessor is containing uh, the instructions, maybe the assembly language. Every machine language or assembly language is contains machine operands and opcodes that is related to the microprocessor. Okay, every microprocessor instructions are represented using the machine operands and opcodes. Okay, the operands are representing what is the input variable, what is the output. Okay, opcode is representing what is the meaning of the particular instruction in the short form. Okay, so machine operands such as requiring certain operands to be even or odd numbered registers. Okay, every microprocessor is containing okay set of registers based on the microprocessor. The available set of registers are varies. The registers can be 8-bit registers, 16-bit registers, or 32-bit registers based on the microprocessor statements. Based on the microprocessor statements, it may use 8-bit registers is sufficient sometimes. Sometimes it required 16-bit register. Sometimes it is 32-bit register. Whether it is using the complete number of bits or not, okay, we are allocating the particular thing. When you are allocating the complete register, we need to show initial number of bits. We call this a lower order register bits and higher order register bits. Okay, we need to represent what is the data there. If you are keeping this intermediate code, okay, that lower order and higher order register bits can be represented as even number register, odd number registers. Okay, some of these particular registers can be ignored. Okay, we need not mention. Otherwise, we need to mention that thing also. Okay, So we can avoid, if you are not using any register completely, we can avoid that particular portion of the register if you are using the intermediate code. So it increases the accessing needs. Okay, so that automatically increases the speed of the program. Also, it is convenient also, right? So apart from these registers, whatever we are using in the microprocessor, that will be represented using the intermediate forms of the source programs. We are also having bookkeeping tasks such as keeping track of the operand stacks, uh, operator stacks can be avoided because here we are directly accessing the registers using the intermediate form. In the high level form, we don't know. We are accessing those registers because finally the data in the microprocessor has to be maintained using the registers only. Okay, right. So that keeping track of the operand stacks can be avoided using the intermediate form. Right. Similarly, certain optimization strategies can be more easily performed on intermediate source forms than either on the original program or the machine level or assembly level language programs that we are seeing the optimization stage of the compiler design. Okay. So, for example, optimization, which depends on flow analysis, such as register allocation, or facilitated by the use of intermediate source forms, can be easily handled using the intermediate form of the source programs. Okay, so some bookkeeping tasks like keeping track of the operands can be avoided. We can effectively utilize the internal microprocessor registers. Okay, using the intermediate form of the source program. Right. Right. An intermediate source form is useful when both a checkout compiler and an optimizing compiler are produced for the same programming language. Okay. We are including two things. One is uh, checkout compiler or optimizing compiler. Okay. What is the meaning of this checkout compiler? So intermediate code is produced for both compilers. Intermediate code is produced for both compilers. Uh, an intermediate code interpreter is written for the checkout version. So the checkout version is okay. What is the meaning of this checkout version? An intermediate code interpreter. Interpreter generally we are calling it as the checkout versions. It means that whenever it is executing any particular statement, okay, if it is immediately producing its result as the output, such compilers we are calling it as the checkout version. On the optimizers compilers, we are having the other version. In the optimization compilers, it automatically avoids unnecessary statements and compacts the codes and finally it produces the output. Okay. In these both forms, okay, intermediate source code is useful because we are creating this particular thing for checkout compiler as well as the optimization compiler. So optimization compilers performs optimizations on the intermediate source form and produce an object module. The previously when I covered this particular topic, the phases of the source program also, we identified that optimization can also be performed on the intermediate code. Okay, even after finishing the optimization, also we can implement this once again. This optimization, re-optimization. Okay, right. Compilers which produces machine independent intermediate source forms are more portable than those which do not. That is also one more important thing. Whenever we are creating a bytecodes for machine independent operation, since such machine independent intermediate sources are more compatible also, or more portable also. More portable means easily transferable from one machine to the other machine. The intermediate source form can be run on a machine by writing the corresponding macros. Okay, the intermediate source forms can be run on a machine by writing a corresponding macros instead of the complete functions. Okay, by writing a corresponding macro in the assembly language of the machine for each instruction of the intermediate source program. We know what is the difference between macros and functions. Macros generally we are writing for the small code. Okay, or whereas the functions we are writing the complete codes. Okay, uh, so the macro will execute very faster when compared to the function. Okay, that is a so we can utilize the macros for the assembly language programs using the intermediate source forms. Okay. These advantages is especially true of the threaded code and the pseudo machine codes, right? So this is the purpose of this intermediate code. Why we are using the intermediate code? Okay. The only thing is, so what is the major disadvantage of the intermediate language is that the code that it is produced can be less efficient than produced by machine level code directly. Why it means instead of directly executing, from high level language to the low level language, we need an extra step. We need an extra step. We are converting first into the intermediate code, then we are converting into machine level language. Okay, so this intermediate code language necessitate on the level of the intermediate language necessitate on the level of translation. That is the only thing. Okay. However, the types of automations that can be performed, because an intermediate language used can more than offset the apparent inefficiency of a two-step translation. Okay, right. Now the thing is, now we'll see what are the various forms of the intermediate forms of the source program. Okay, uh, we are identifying here the three. One is the abstract syntax trees. Second is polishing notations. Third is the address code. So we'll see these three briefly here. Okay, in the corresponding topics, we'll elaborate those things. So we started with the abstract syntax tree in the last class itself. So in the last class, we identified this abstract syntax tree for a parse tree. First of all, we'll see the parse tree. Parse tree, what is the representation of the parse tree? What is the difference between the parse tree and the abstract syntax tree? We'll see today completely. The parse tree representations are not easy to be passed by the compiler. It is having more levels, more terminals or non-terminals. Okay, all these are certainly more details it contains actually than needed. Okay, in the yesterday also I told that particular thing. We require directly this ID and these operators and operands. Operands are represented by the terminals. Okay, and terminals. Operators also represented by terminals only. We require these terminals are sufficient. We doesn't require all these non-terminals, because only non-terminal are only for substitution of these terminals only. Okay, right. If you are watching closely, we find most of the leaf nodes are single childs to their parent nodes. That is one more thing we identified. One thing is it doesn't require actually the non-terminals. Okay, non-terminals. We are always replacing the non-terminals with the terminals finally, and also some most of the things these terminals are only childs to their parents. Okay, so why unnecessary? Only one is to one mapping only. This information can be eliminated before feeding into the next phase. To recognize whether the production is correct or wrong, the grammar is correct or wrong, we are using all these things. But when we are after identifying the syntax is correct, okay, the given parse tree is correct, then uh, to carry to the next step, we can eliminate this unnecessary information. Okay, so after eliminating this unnecessary information like all the non-terminals, the given tree becomes like this. Okay, this particular tree after eliminating the unnecessary information, which is nothing but all the non-terminals, okay, is called as abstract syntax tree. Abstract syntax tree. The syntax tree is now becomes abstract syntax tree. Okay, so we are having various forms of representing the trees, using the arrays, using trees, various other implementations that we learned as part of the data structures also. So abstract syntaxes are import data structures in the compiler with the least unnecessary information. With the least unnecessary information. Okay. The abstract syntaxes are more compact than the parse trees. and can be easily used by a compiler. Two things. We are eliminating the unnecessary information. Then these abstract syntax are in the compact form and can be easily used by the compiler. Okay, it requires less time. I am giving you one more example of the abstract syntax tree. Okay, so because using uh, the grammar, okay, with the e productions, we are identifying this particular thing. After eliminating the non-terminals, this particular tree is simply replaced by the small syntax tree, okay, abstract syntax tree. Okay, so look how it is looking, how smaller this one, how bigger this one. Okay, so the thing is here the tree is containing first level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, whereas here it contains only two levels. Okay, the parsing into the abstract syntax is much easier. Okay, now we will also see what is the difference between the parse tree versus abstract syntax tree. So first of all, the parse tree is a graphical representation of the replacement process in a derivation. What is the purpose of the parse tree? Why you are using? Whenever we are deriving a given expression, whenever we are deriving a given expression, it is a graphical representation for the derivation. Okay, whereas the syntax tree is the compact form of the parse tree, whereas the syntax tree is the compact form of the parse tree. Okay, right. In the parse tree, each interior node represents a grammar rule. Each interior node represents a grammar rule. Each leaf node represents a terminal. Each leaf node represents a terminal. Okay, in the syntax tree, each interior node represents an operator. Each interior node represents an operator. Each leaf node represents an operand. We are right now here identifying in terms of operators and operands, whereas the parse tree we are identifying a grammatical rule or non-terminals. Leaf nodes are terminals. Leaf nodes are terminals. Okay, parse tree provides easy characteristic information from the real syntax, whereas syntax tree do not provide any characteristic information from the real syntax. Okay, parse trees are comparatively less dense than syntax trees. Syntax trees are comparatively more dense than the parse trees. It contains exactly what it required. So finally, syntax trees are also called as abstract syntax trees because they are abstract representation of the parse trees. Because they are abstract representation of the parse trees, they do not provide every characteristic information from the real syntax. Okay, for example, the abstract syntax tree doesn't contains no rule nodes, no parentheses, etc. Okay, right. This is the meaning of the abstract syntax trees, which can be utilized right away for even semantic representation of the particular program also. Right. The next thing is Polish notations. We know what is the meaning of the Polish notations. We studied the Polish notations uh, in the data structures. Okay, the in the Polish notations, we are identifying prefixes and the postfix form, prefix form. Okay, postfix expression, prefix expression. Okay, infix expressions. Those we are identifying as the Polish notation. Why we are basically we are using the Polish notation to represent expressions. To represent expression. Okay, so here we'll expect the Polish notation here also. Okay, we identify here for representing the various statements how we are representing this particular thing. Okay, so suffix or prefix of Polish notations was one of the earliest intermediate source forms developed and remain more popular. Okay, so in order to identify to express evaluations, we require this Polish notation. We use suffix Polish notation. Okay, that means we are a post order traversal or a post notation. Okay, also called as the suffix notation. The various terms we are using for the Polish notation as a method of specifying arithmetic expressions unambiguously without resources to parentheses. Okay, why we are using this Polish notation in order to execute the expressions unambiguously. Okay, whether you are using the postfix evaluation or prefix evaluation, most of you studied the postfix evaluations, but at the same time we need to study the prefix evaluation and infix evaluations also. Okay, right. We can also use the Polish notations as an intermediate source form also. Here, the exception to those Polish notation we studies as part of the data structure. Here, we can also use these Polish notations as a intermediate source form, not only for arithmetic expressions but also language constructs. But also language constructs. It may not be for the arithmetic expressions, but also can be used for language construction, language statements. Okay, so we are here. We are including a small representation for this Polish notation. Okay, to illustrate this, okay, we are using this particular Polish notation for a conditional branching statement. Generally, in what way we represent the conditional branch statement? If expression, then statement, else statement. Okay. Say for example, if you are using the statements as it is for the expression, okay, okay, this statement who we are representing expressions. That means the Polish notation postfix. What is the meaning? Operands first, then operator. Operand first, then operator. What is the operator here? If. What are the operands? Expressions or statements. Then we need to represent the operands first, expression, statement, then if. Okay. If required, then else later. Okay. Right. Those are operators. Okay. Expressions, statements are operands. But because both the statement one statement would be evaluated before placed on the stack. That means before reading the if statement, we are processing here both statement one and statement two also. But what is our requirement? We want to represent only one of the statement, whether statement one or statement two, based on the condition. So that particular representation is not sufficient here. Okay. So we require a different notation. What is happening here? Before reaching the if statement itself, we are processed already statement one and statement two also. But we need to we need to execute only one of these statements, not both. Okay. So we need a different notation can be adopted. That different notation can be represented using expression, and we are using a label. Okay, here we are using the labels instead of executing the statements or control statement. The control statement is already having internal syntax, where to start, where to leave. We are using the labels in the intermediate form. We use a separate labels before statement one and before statement two. Okay, if you are representing our expression and based on the labels, okay, and of course it contains a go-to statement at the end of each statement one or statement two based on the go-to statements and based on the labels. Let it be it is a PZ here BR. Okay, uh, we call it in the microprocess statement. We call it as a branch statement. We call it as a branch statement. Right. Using the branch statements, okay, the problem can be solved using the primitive construction of the branch statements BZ and BR. Okay, so BZ is a binary operator, whereas BR is a unary operator. That is the difference between these two statements. Using the binary operator causes a branches to either label to, okay, which is the first symbol of the statement to, if expression evaluated to false. Okay, BZ what it do? If the condition is false, automatically it moves to the first statement of the statement two, else it executes the statement one. Okay, right. So BR is a unary operator that causes a branch to label to, okay, which is the symbol immediately following the last symbol of the statement. Okay, right. So based on the branch statements, okay, we are processing these operands. but do not add any result on the top of the stack. But we are not adding any thing on the top of the stack. But here, the branching where to go, where to leave is automatically inherently contains in the operator. Here we doesn't require to store any information on the top of the stack. What is the purpose of the stack? The stack containing what is the next statement to be executed. What is the purpose of the stack given we are identified in the data structures? The stack is containing the next statement to be executed. The stack is containing next statement to be executed. That thing we need not store using the intermediate code. Okay, these BR BZ automatically this binary operator, unary operator directly indicating based on the condition is true where to go. If the condition is false, where to go. Similarly, the BR also indicating based on this particular thing where to go the next statement. Okay, that is the purpose of the intermediate code using the Polish notation. This also we are calling it as a Polish notation in terms of state. Okay, right. Next, we are having the third form is the three address codes. Three address code is also an intermediate code. In the three address code, we are using all statements represented using the three addresses. Okay, it is used by with the optimizing compilers. In the three address code, the given expression is broken down into several separate instructions. In the three address code, the given expression is broken into several separate instructions. Okay, these instructions can be easily translated into the assembly language. In what way we are dividing this given instruction into separate small instructions so that each small instruction can be easily converted into the assembly language. Each three address code instruction has at most three operands only. Each three address code instruction has at most three operands only. It is a combination of assignment and binary operator. It is a combination of assignment and binary operator. So, for example, if the given expression is this A is equal to this particular thing, then we are identifying, first of all, we are taking the minus C as a single operator. Here we are having the two operands, one operator. Okay, then we identified it as a T1. Okay, then using the T1, we identified this C into B, this particular small result as T2. Then T3 is once again this one. Then T4 is this T3 into this D. We are calling it as a T4. Okay, this is one operation. Together is one operation. This is one operation. Together is a one operation. So we are getting this result and this result. Adding these two results, T2 and T4. Okay, we are getting the final result A. So simply we saved this T5 into A. This small expression is broken down into these many small operations. One operation 1, together operation 2. This is operation 3, together is operation 4. Adding this 2 and 3 as operation 5, and then finally assigning this operation 5 into A. In this, if you are identifying after broken down into the small operations, after finishing this operation, no instruction is having more than three operands. Operand 1, operand 2, operand 3, three operands only. Operand 1, operand 2, two operands only. 1, 2, 3, three operands. 1, 2, 3, three operands. 1, 2, two operands. So converting this particular statement into assembly language is much easier when compared to this particular bigger instruction. This is called as the three address code. Okay. So this T is used as the registers in the target program. All these T's are nothing but various registers available in the microprocessor. The three address codes can be represented in the two forms, quadruples and triples. Quadruples and triples. We see these two representations. Okay. So quadruples is having like the structure, operator, the stack or queue. The quadruples have 4 fields. the quadruples have 4 fields to implement the tree address code. The fields of quadruples contains the name of the operator, the first source operand, second source operand, and the result. Operator, first operand, second operand, and result. Operator, source 1, source 2, destination is nothing but result. Okay. So, for example, if the same, if we are having a small expression, for this expression, like the previously, we created 3 address codes. T1 is equal to slash B, T2 is equal to C plus D, okay. T3 is equal to this into this result into this result, T1 and T2. Then finally assigning this complete result into the A, okay. We are identifying each and every 3 address code statement which are not cross required more than 3 operands. Okay, if the 3 operands are readily available, we make into statement. Okay, this quadruple representation is represent the operator source 1, source 2, destination is nothing but result. So this left side of this all this assignment operator is nothing but results. So we written everything here. All the operators we written in the first this column. Okay, this is the uh, three address code 1, 2, 3, 4 the statements. Okay, we written we are representing as within the bracket 0, 1, 2, 3. This is one more representation. Here we written all these operands minus plus multiplication, and this is only assignment. Okay, and source 1, whatever the first operands, then second source 2, source operand. If it is not containing anything, we are writing the dash. That means null. Okay. So this is the quadruple representation. Say triple representation. The triple representation may have 3 fields only to implement the 3 address code. The field of triples contains the name of the operator, first source operand, and second source operand only. In the triples, the results of the respective sub-expressions are denoted by position of expression. In the triples, the results of respective sub-expressions and previous expression, whatever I showed the result, okay, left side of the each and every statement are denoted by the position now, not by name. Okay, this triple is equivalent to DAG while representing the expression. We'll explain you the DAG. Right. Okay, right. So, say for example, the same statement. We are the 3 address code statements are these. Okay, here we are representing into once again the position are 0, 1, 2, 3. Operators are minus plus multiplication assignment. Source 1. Okay, B, C. Okay, whereas when come to the second statement, the source 1 is nothing but we need the previous result. Okay, na? The previous result is identified T1 is T1 plus into T2. Here the T1 result is available that particular in the location 0. Whereas here it is the T2. The T2 result, what is the temporary variable register names are represented using the position 1. This is nothing but T1. Previously we shown in the separately in the destination one more 4 quadruple address code, whereas now those things we are showing directly in the source 1 and source 2 with reference to the position. With reference to the position. Okay, right. So after identifying this particular position, final result is the source 1. We are identifying the source 1. Okay, the position number 2. Okay, this is the triple address code.